Deadlock Fight Night continues along here with our 26th show. Now moving on to our North American portion. I'm ZP here with Dan, where, Dan, you came a long way for the show here today. That's right, straight out of Kazakhstan. You know, you took a flight, and the first thing you did on getting home, was it settle yourself? Was it recover from illness? No, it was come in here and cast some DFN.
Yeah, man. It was like probably the worst series of flights I've ever had as well. It was like, it's supposed to be like a 20-hour journey, but then, you know, it was one delay on the first big flight that like just basically screws all the other flights. And before you know it, you're 34 hours deep in economy and four different, I don't know. Anyway, hello.
You made it. And that's the important thing. Nothing would stop you from getting up and over here. But also, if you're wondering why, well, this is Deadlock Fight Night, and this is the format we have here. If you're just tuning on in, we just finished up with our EU portion of the show. It's a challenging match into the money match, where one win team came back in after a little bit of a sabbatical, took down Abrahams, and made it real close against Virtus Pro, nearly taking them down, you know, making some changes and adaptations. But in the end, VP was able to retain their spot on top of the mountain. Now, though, we move on to North America, where it's going to be Hydra Nation taking on Valhalla once more. We'll see which of these two teams can potentially give Melee Creeps a run for their money. And, you know, you see Hydra Nation here, roster-wise, and needless to say, they've made changes here, Dan, as they always do whenever they're not on top.
Yeah, it's just like, it's the natural form, which is kind of scary. I mean, you feel like at some point it would have to end, but no. So yeah, addition of Poppers and Fish Cake. I suppose with Hydra Nation, it's interesting because we felt like one of the things that they were missing post Quig leaving, it seemed like, was and having another big voice on the team, which they added with Young Calc. And so to not see Young Calc here already is concerning.
Yeah, I mean, Calc right now, his wrist is healing, but also it would also be very concerning is not bringing in our third here as we're breaking down the rosters, otherwise known as Jason Kaplan. Jason, you're back on in, and, you know, Hydra Nation, the roster keeps on a shifting.
Sorry, Jason couldn't be here today. We're back on God. Justin. Yeah, you know, I will say this. I publicly and privately, well, privately to you guys, did give a lot of crap to Poppers over the week, saying like he could only really play Yamato. But you know what? I got to give him some respect where it's due. Seeing his Sinclair play last week against Melee Creeps was pretty damn good. And this roster is starting to round out pretty well. Obviously, there's like a lot of like holes they have to fill with like Young Calc, with Flick as well, which you don't talk about often enough. Of like him not being on the roster anymore is a big hit to this team. But they're definitely starting to look better. And from the first week till now, the second we get to see them, I'm curious how much have they leveled up since? Because their opponents they're going up against, Valhalla, they kind of like walked over in 24 minutes just last week.
Yeah, and that's a good time to talk about Valhalla, the team that they're going to be up against, where you'll notice some familiar names on Valhalla, where, you know what, they grabbed the Valhalla image kind of out of nowhere, but it's okay. It's not a random AI image, which is what teams will often foist on us when they don't have an org, so, you know, we'll let it be. But you take a look there, DMB, of course, used to be on Hydra Nation in the past. Scout, of course, used to be with TF2 Boomers, so, you know, a lot of familiar names. Also, I think Lord.M actually had a quick stay on Hydra Nation for 1 week.
A week.
Yeah, there's a lot of rotation here at NA, is what it comes down to, Dan.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like the image is giving me kind of Renaissance painting, which is pretty refined. Also, I feel like Valhalla is just a pretty good name, you know, get that mythology in there. I don't know why my analysis is centered around the name and also the image. I should probably talk about the players. But yeah, I think it is it's definitely a team, a lineup that has a lot of skill. Obviously, I think I'm not sure how long they've been playing together with this addition. It seems like no one in Deadlock has been playing together for too long, especially in the North American region. So we'll see what the you know what it looks like, because again, with this massive patch that's just come in, I feel like we don't even know how the roles will settle just yet. And so that's obviously like kind of a big deal in figuring out the synergies as to like who should play what, how the hero pools should work with one another. So I'm just kind of curious from that point of view. It's like a journey of discovery. I think the same thing with Hydra Nation, although Hydra Nation, it feels like they were god tier before, and now they're like demigod. It's like this is a difference.
Well, when teams stop letting their players be poached by them whenever Hydra Nation loses, I think that's when the downward trend started to happen. No, obviously all fun and games here. That's kind of a running meme within that team. But yeah, I think this is going to be a tough game. I think for both teams, we're going to see some growth. I think for Valhalla, we need to see more growth considering how quickly the game went against them last week. And if they want to be a true contender for the title North America, which honestly I would love to see, they need to be able to go head to head against Hydra Nation, which is still insanely difficult to do so when you have such talented players in raw mechanical skill on that roster.
Well, of course, one thing that we see mechanical skill on before we get into any drafting. That's right. The Mo and Krill one-on-one. EU has gotten very refined and very, very good at the Mo ones. NA, by comparison, tends to be a little bit more roughshod. And what in the world was that? The double parry follow through? Okay. Okay, this feels scripted. This feels scripted, Dan. I'm not sure what's going on here.
I'm here for it. This is
these parry dashes, like I've never seen this tech before, actually. What is happening, dude? Like we changed the gravity or something, or like the?
No.
I don't. I just don't know what words to use to describe this.
Is it lag? What was that?
No, I think legitimately it is a parry dash tech that they found out, which it's a cool new movement tech, and they're trying to use it to win the Mo 1v1s. Okay, the mind games have gotten bigger. I'm sorry, NA, I was not familiar with your game.
I feel like NA wins. NA innovates. Okay, makes sense.
Okay, I now need to go into the game and test this like weird dashing parrying because that looked pretty damn sick. And I could find ways for that to be used in the laning phase for sure when you see people trying to last hit with melees.
It's pretty dope, honestly, because I know some movement tech did get removed, but there's still so much in the game that it's like actually so cool. If that's actually a new thing, yeah, it'd be cool if we could get that confirmed. Is that like ZP, are you aware if that's like a new thing that came in with this most recent patch, or is that just like always?
No, that's definitely new, or it's at least figured out recently. But okay, Hydra Nation kicking off here with the Warden ban. They decide we don't want to deal with the new Warden, and I mean, kind of makes sense given the fact that John kind of took them to the woodshed. 3 maps with Warden, even the map that they lost. So maybe Hydra Nation has decided, you know what, strategy-wise, we're not even against John right now. We're not going to deal with the Warden. But if you're Valhalla, you don't have first pick. You got one objective: ban Wraith. Do it. Just do it. And you've banned Calico. Kind of feels like a mistake to me.
I mean, it depends, right? Like if Wraith gets through to Valhalla's side, we know DMB is a very strong Wraith player. So if Hydration don't pick it up, it could actually work out pretty well for Valhalla in this, but being a best of one, like you don't have the chance to make up for any mistakes when it comes to the draft. And I don't hate it. I'm trying to think who would be playing Wraith on Hydranation's side because Wraith wasn't a thing anymore when DMB was off the team. But Leffa, ooh, DDK. You talk about Leffa on Infernus. What about Leffa on Wraith? How sick could that be?
Yeah, I feel like, I definitely support ZP's general emotional journey with the whole banning of the Calico as opposed to the Wraith, because the fact that Hydration do get the first pick option there is kind of disgusting, let's be honest. Yeah, Leffa obviously with the mechanics that he has, and they will understand how to abuse the hell out of the current Wraith. So I feel like that's pretty scary. Obviously Shiv is a great pickup to get in Constellation, and obviously getting the second pick behind that, there's a lot you can do with it. But yeah, it really does feel like Leffa plus Wraith equals GG.
Yeah, I mean, Valhalla now, maybe in return, you can come out here and you could even open Shiv Kelvin if you wanted to, right? Or, in my mind, I think getting something like Abrams would be better, but okay, they do decide to go Shiv Kelvin, so they lock down a power lane. But you think about what's available here, Hydra Nation can stack the deck in their power here, because guess what? They don't have to stop at Wraith. They can get Mirage, who was banned all day in EU, so they could come in and get Mirage and Abrams, and yeah, exactly. Like if you go Mirage Abrams here, I don't know, man. Like Shiv Kelvin is a really good lane, but Wraith, Mirage. Okay, second pick.
No,
pocket.
don't. Ooh, why would you see a pocket as a second pick when there's Abrams up?
Well, it's more of a like I don't know. I was not expecting this.
Exactly.
You still get the Mirage up, and you still get the Abrams, and I get maybe you go Abrams here, but you've now given up the Mirage to Valhalla if they want to do it. It gives them a much more reliable backline damage that they wouldn't have had. I mean, I think here it may just be the idea that they thought Valhalla would decide to go with it. So I don't know. Also, I don't hate the Paradox pick. I think Paradox, you just look back at the last map in EU, still very good.
Yeah, but like Paradox Abrams. Don't pocket Paradox.
Yeah.
I mean,
let's see if we get the Abrams here though, because that would be pretty dope to get Abrams out with the Kelvin shivers. That'd be kind of nice. All right, do it.
You're under my protection now.
Okay, well that's fair. That's fair. That's fair. Okay, sure. You ban Abrams, so Hydra Nation cannot get him.
That would make sense in this case. I mean, if you're not going to get the Abrams yourself, you probably don't want Hydra Nation to get Abrams, where they've yet to get any frontline. And Hydration also was terrifying on Abrams last week. Even the games that Hydra Nation lost, when Hydration was on Abrams, was usually a good time. Ooh, banning Vindicta, I just feel pain, Jason.
You know what? I think we can't judge it too much, because remember when we got to picks in EU, I'm sorry, I'm playing with my hair because I hate it. I want to rip it out or shave it off. The picks were completely out of order from what we expected as well in the EU. So things could have changed in this last week that we're not really expecting. So I don't want to judge it too much, but like in theory, yeah, the Vindicta ban for me is a little bit odd, considering like still what's on the table with an Abrams. Because if you don't pick up Abrams right now, like what are you doing? Like it's going to be such a strong pick for either of these teams.
Jason, you got kind of a Wolverine look though. It's pretty sexy,
this
man.
side comes out and this side goes like straight, and it's like pissing me off that I'm literally about to get my clippers and just shave my head on the stream. I swear.
You're an idiot. It's got to be some good hairdressers out there.
Jason, we were already toying with the idea of doing a Patreon post show to give people a little bit extra content, take questions otherwise. Maybe we can make the very first thing of the post show Jason shaves his head. Really get people invested. I mean, look, you're gonna do it anyways. I'm just saying, might as well, make some content out of it.
I have a haircut scheduled for this weekend because I have a wedding to go to in a couple days. So I'm gonna keep my hands down, keep them under the table or on top of the table, but on the table while I look at this Viscous pickup, which honestly Viscous has been kind of pretty decent over EU today. Yeah. We kind of saw a massive drop off out of Viscous, then he kind of came back with the saving capabilities with the cube, even like Rescue Beam if we get to that point as well. Very solid pick.
Yeah, definitely seems to be back in fashion, but I guess Viscous is never really going to go out of fashion per se, because the cube is a unique answer to that's free to like a lot of devastating abilities. So like the save is really sick. Mo and Krill, that's kind of cool. Mo and Krill, because it's interesting, because like Mo and Krill was really obviously rising up for like S tier almost right before the patch. And that's kind of like Vindicta wasn't too far away from there as well. So it's kind of interesting to see where people place some of those heroes now. What do you guys feel like with regards to the new patch? So I feel like my sense is off on everything now.
I feel like Mo is probably underrated, and I think Mo is also very good for when Hydration plays it. That said, I don't really agree with picking Mo this late in the draft, where I don't think Valhalla was necessarily going to go with the Mo and Krill. They had already picked the Viscous on top of it, which is going to make your Mo and Krill's life a little bit difficult. And again, you could have just went Abrams. I think the Mo and Krill pick is good, but not based on... It's not good in the context of what was available, which was the Abrams.
You were looking to summon God,
AP,
right?
Abrams look more like you.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just do, man. Like, I don't know.
I think they know they're in on it, and they did that on purpose. sorry, Jason.
No, it's all good. I also don't understand the Mo and Krill pick after you see Viscous locked in, because that really limits like your kill potential. Unless it's a delay or something, or maybe you try to use it on a ship, but again, a cube's gonna come through. I think it definitely would have been better the other way around for sure. But the Lash is the last pick up here for Valhalla. It leaves Hydra Nation with Ivy. Honestly, I'm kind of torn between both comps. I feel like Hydra Nation had just more raw damage, but Valhalla has like a better rounded out composition. But again, like if you're Mirage your Shiv and you kind of fall behind, unless your gun Lash can do some work, I feel like you're not going to get people in execute range that easily for Shiv to just pop off.
Here's what I think, and this is really the thing that I will use to be a tiebreaker. If there's any doubt between two teams, and one team has Wraith and the other team does not, the team with Wraith is going to win. Wraith, I think, is legitimately way over the curve in hero power at the moment. And if you think all else is relatively even, having the Wraith probably puts you over the top. Even in NA where Wraith isn't as always valued, but this iteration of Wraith has been very valued. So to me, I look at Valhalla and I go back to the very beginning and think that the first ban Calico was probably a mistake. And look, it may or may not cost them the match, but I don't like the idea of saying we'd rather face the Wraith than the Calico. I think of the two, you'd much rather go against the Calico.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like Hydra Nation does have a bit of everything, obviously, which is nice, but then it's like plus Wraith is pretty solid, and it feels like they should have good early laning as well. And I just think about Valhalla, like also it's super tanky. I don't know, I feel like you kind of nailed it, ZP, in a nutshell. It's like the comps are pretty even plus Wraith though, so that kind of tips it pretty heavily. Plus, it's gonna be Leffa playing Wraith, so that's additionally a problem.
Well, I'm gonna say this. I'm not 100% sure it will be Leffa on Wraith. Actually, I know Hydration will be on Mo and Krill. Vegas gonna be on Ivy. Fishcake on Lady Geist. I think Poppers will be on Paradox. So it kind of has to be him, or
I feel like it has to be. I feel like also
did we see him on Pocket last week with Vegas, or sorry, with Leffa?
Did we see who on Pocket last week?
Leffa.
I don't think.
Let me go back.
We saw Leffa on Pocket last week. We definitely saw people.
Was Vegas on Pocket?
Yeah, Vegas on Pocket makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like if you're putting Leffa on anything other than Wraith with this comp, I feel like you've lost your mind. He's like the most mechanically skilled player, and it's the hero that leverages that by far the most.
So to be fair, like for Hydration, it's kind of hard to lock things down on who's playing who, because like we do see Poppers play Geist, but also Fishcake plays Geist, but then also Rokane plays Paradox. I don't actually know who's going to be on who in this one. Like Leffa like played Mirage as well last week. I think this is kind of the interesting thing is that like we're not able, ZP, to really suss out exactly who's playing who on a lot of teams outside of Virtus Pro, because Virtus Pro have kind of been, well, we see them like almost every single week that we ever have DFN, and all the other teams we don't see that often compared to them. But it's really hard to lock things down, especially when you have roster changes like for Hydra Nation. I think in the past we've been able to easily pick who's playing what, but the constant swapping of players means I think we're seeing players swap roles as well within the team.
Well, I think here it's I would guess Rokane on Geist, just because Rokane went through a period of time where Rokane did nothing but play Geist, and there's still, I think, some weird hero interactions where maybe that won't end up being the case, but I think Hydration, Mo, and Krill seems likely to me. Rokane on Geist seems pretty likely to me. Leffa on Wraith seems likely, and then the rest, normally would be
on Ivy. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe Poppers to be put on Ivy. Who knows? I mean, that's kind of the great thing here is like with them having a new roster and them only playing a total of 4 games last week, we don't really fully know and have like the stats to actually tell you who's going to be on what. But what I will tell you is this is going to be an exciting game, an exciting series over in North America as well, with still the victor of this up against Melee Creeps. And I want to see if Valhalla can be able to bounce back here in their second week in DFN even stronger, because Lord and M, I mean, we've seen him play Lash before in the past. We've seen him be on Hydra Nation before. He has every opportunity to pull this one back for his team.
Well, it's going to be Fishcake coming out here on the Paradox. It makes sense, given that Fishcake in the past has played more on the playmaking side.
No, Rokane
obviously.
on Paradox.
Wow, that is Lash. What? No, it's...
Top left.
Oh, wait, what in the world? Yeah, no, I saw it completely wrong. Okay, Rokane on Paradox.
You just need explosives.
Okay, guys, it kind of bothers me how massive Abrams' head is on the image compared to everyone else. It just kind of like seems out of scale somehow.
Well, I mean, Abrams is kind of big. Let's be real. He's an imposing presence, Dan.
That's what I tried to tell myself, but I just can't. I can't deal with it.
Well,
I don't think I've shared this with all of you, actually. Though, feels better now.
But taking a look at the lanes, Wraith Paradox, I mean, actually pretty strong lane. I mean, you're going up against Abrams, Lash on the other side. So I don't know if you're 100% going to push out an Abrams, but I don't think this lane is going to be starved to farm then. Kind of looking over, the lane that's a little interesting to me is the Pocket Ivy lane up against Mirage Viscous. I feel like poke pressure-wise that overall lane presence would go a little bit more than Valhalla there.
Yeah, Jason, before you pop off, what's the biggest storyline for you looking at the early lanes here?
I would have to say I'm gonna have to look at Leffa, like honestly. Like, how's this lane gonna actually play out? Because like Lash Abrams, I don't really rate that as an insanely like strong combo, especially with how good Leffa's gonna be. Obviously, when he gets your ultimates online at 3.4 thousand souls, that's when things can change quite drastically. But I think if you see Left off to a strong start, Hydration are going to be hard to stop.
That's fair.
Also, I think for me is wondering if the Geist Mo lane is potentially the answer to a Shiv Kelvin lane. Like, I do think there's potential wisdom in running a Mo at the very least versus the Shiv Kelvin lane, just because of it's in a way it's like fighting sustain with sustain, assuming you're able to land your scorns with any degree of consistency. So it's a little bit interesting to me. Also, the fact that the box run is being contested a little bit here in the right-hand side. It's not 100% free. I think teams may be getting a little bit better at being like, oh, you went for a box run. Maybe you shouldn't get this. And Popper's in real danger. Going for the cloak and
Of course,
kind of breaks the MB's ankles.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's why we got the Calico ban as well, just so you're not having to compete against a Calico that can just run the boxes super efficiently. Kind of an interesting dynamic that we have to play with now in the game. So it's cool how Deadlock's being refined over time, and how the devs are probably being informed about what the players like to do, and like, oh, that's a cool idea. Because of course, I think Hydration, if we're talking about like efficient farming and pathing around a map, Hydration was probably the first person that really like nailed it, at least from what we saw on DFN.
Yeah, and the fact that's more important early, I think also adds a little bit more intrigue to the laning phase, where prior to some of the box changes, people just kind of stayed in lane for the first 8 minutes, and there wasn't as much mobility. Now, you got more opportunities for ganks and under the cover of doing a box run, so I think overall it's a pretty positive change to the game, especially now that like lanes don't punish you for not being in lane to get the shared souls.
Yes, yeah, 100%. Because that with going 4 lanes to 3, with 4 lanes there was a lot of roaming happening pretty consistently, and we did lose that going down to 3 lanes. So it's nice that there's options for pace changes and styles as well to change. But enough about that, I suppose. We've got a game to cast.
We do, and honestly, I do like this Geist Mo lane. I mean, you take a look at it, normally a Shiv Kelvin lane is just shoving you into Guardian. And, whether it be execution, comp, or both, Fishcake and Hydration are making this lane look relatively average, which is not the norm for Shiv Kelvin. So, I mean, this is pretty cool for Hydra Nation, even though, yeah, no one has died here or anything just yet. That kind of is the storyline here, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great shout. Oh, hold on. Hold on. Wow, what a TP. A nice escape there coming on through for Lefa. Definitely an important target to try to nerf as quickly as possible. Also, Poppers with a near escape again as well. So, yeah. Have we even had a first blood yet?
I'm trying to think.
I don't think
maybe no. It maybe no. Or it was just one. Because there's a few times we got really close.
Yeah.
I know that, but take a look here. Got Wraith going back to heal, and Popper's Popper's gonna go down. And that was first blood, by the way. So the answer to that was no. We did not have first blood. Now we do.
Yeah, that's pretty slow. Like 5 minutes in. Okay. And yeah, the tug of war that you're mentioning is pretty interesting. It does seem like Hydra Nation having a good time with the Mo Geist lane, but Mo leaving lane briefly there before coming back. Might be an opportunity, given how pushed Valhalla are on that left side lane, to potentially get something there with the ult online. At the same time, this tower going down real fast here in mid. That's a big plus actually for Valhalla. That will unlock some roam for them as well, potentially.
Yeah, I mean, I think the middle lane has worked out pretty well for Valhalla. I mean, Mirage, Viscus, not the easiest lane to deal with. I think also, again, you put Ivy in here. It's not necessarily the most deadly of lanes, but okay. Gooball gonna be coming on out here for Lord NM. Looking here, tries to take the angle up and over. Now looking for Ivy, bouncing around, and finally gonna head on over. Nothing too much gonna happen from that, mind you, but yeah, looking for it. Meanwhile, Affliction gonna be invested pretty aggressively here by Poppers, up and over. Cube though, keeping Viscus nice and alive, even after the swap from Arcane comes in off to the side. So, a little bit of back and forth interaction here, Dan, but neither team losing anyone here just yet.
Yeah, the cube is so nice. A very nice catch there for that. The preventative measures. We should all be applying preventative measures to death. And that is one great pick. One great pick for that.
Rokane's in trouble right now. Rokane low HP, Lash on the hunt. Just needs a little bit more. Rokane desperately trying to get helped out by the Ivy. Not quite going to happen. Death Slam invested right on over. Ivy now put into the blunder. Tries to go for the parry, and no, not going to happen. And Dan, here's the other magnificent thing right now for Valhalla. Look at the left-hand lane, and specifically, look in the mini-map for the health of the Guardian. It is as healthy can be, and that's against the Shiv Kelvin lane.
Yeah, and also it's similarly on the other side there on that left side lane for Valhalla. Their Guardian's not really being touched either, so it's somewhat of a stalemate. Despite some of the tug of war, I think, generally going Hydra Nation's way, they aren't able to convert any damage off of that either. So that's going to have to be broken up by a gank, and this mid lane being freed up now in favor of Valhalla might open them up to do so. But we have had Hydra Nation actually, gravitating with 3 players towards that mid side, so they can put some extra pressure on that. So we'll see what they decide to actually do here. But it does feel like Valhalla have a moment here where they could try to, make use of that mid tower being down.
So overall, by the way, Valhalla is actually building up a decent soul lead right now. And you look at the allocation from the pressure they've been getting. I think they've also gotten like more boxes and a little bit more jungle farm on top of it. But take a look at Scout. Scout 7.1k, League at 7.5k. I mean, the allocation is quite good. Lefa's at 7.5k in turn, but Valhalla, the areas where they're ahead on farm right now, some of the people who want to be ahead on farm is Fishcake bites the dust over on the left. Rotation came in from Valhalla, and Hydra Nation, this is a pretty tough start to the game.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Bringing over those players from that mid lane and trying to finally, get some damage converted onto this tower. So that's really good work. With that said, Hydra Nation did actually have an additional player here. It was a 3v3, but just not the positioning, I think, to defend against that gank coming in from Northern M. So Valhalla definitely, again, converting off of that early mid tower getting taken and forcing a third player to come back into this left lane for Hydra Nation. And they might want to try to contest this now, but I don't think they have quite as much kill potential as there is on the Valhalla side. Shiv is in the front line now for them, and they can certainly continue to threaten this tower. So this continues to be a problem right now, I think, for Hydra Nation to have to find a solution for it. Else this tower is going to go down, and that's a nice find onto Rokane with that continued defense there on the right side.
Yeah, and the other thing too of note is that Scout is the Abrams that usually the teams that Scout is on, they will funnel more farm to Abrams. It is a farming Abrams that almost takes on more of a carry role at times, because you look at where Scout is right now. Scout is eating part of the jungle. More Abrams at this point in the game would be a little bit more active on ganks, but Scout is very content to get big. Damn, like the swollest Abrams you've ever seen.
Let's do it. He's on the trend. All right. Okay, is that indeed 4 players on the left side? So we're talking about the fact that Hydra Nation have to figure out how they can defend this. 3 players was not enough. And in fact, they're bringing over a 5th as well, as we see Poppers coming in from the side on the pocket. Maybe you could find a nice affliction as he comes in from the back line. That's a perfect way to start the engage here for Hydra Nation. We'll see what damage they can get off of this. Kelvin Soul going down as well, trapping everybody in. So that's going to be a nice heal. Everybody getting up with that healing Nova. Really nice stuff there to allow Valhalla to back away from this fight, which otherwise was not a good start for them with that flank from Pocket.
Yeah, I mean, Pocket kicked things off. They still have the Death Slam, though, on the re-engage. If Valhalla wants to go back in, I think that's exactly what they want to do right now. Pocket getting hit by the goo ball, nearly getting down. It went down to 16 HP, somehow got away. Still, a little bit of splatter coming on in. Lord NM looking for more. The rest of Valhalla swarming around. Hydration and Fishcake cannot get out of the fray. The Guardian's going to go down, and Valhalla making this right-hand side look real well for them. And you get the Death Slam at the very end. Boy, oh boy, Valhalla making it look easy right now. And they get urn control down. Yeah,
and there's not really enough on the right side to prevent them from actually converting on this. As long as they get somebody else to help, and we will have the Shiv making his way across. Also, Laro Kashi is going to make sure that they got some lane control there. In fact, they're actually bringing 3 players there, so they might even try to challenge the Walker potentially, or go aggressive into the enemy jungle. They've got options there, but at the same time, they're going to lose this left side tower unless they... I mean, they're way too out of position, I think, to defend that at this point. So they're going to need to... Valhalla will need to try to trade this out by getting value either through pushing mid, pushing the right side. But presumably, they can't just give that up, lose this left side for free with the map presence they have in mid and the right side now.
Valhalla may have just been okay with just getting the urn, but also Poppers in real danger. Pocket or no, goes low HP, and yet the same note, able to get away. And you take a look, League kind of looks at it and says, nah, that don't actually want to go in on that. But still around about a 10k soul difference between both sides right now. Valhalla working with more map control too, still having their middle guardian, and maybe a good time here to bring in Jason. Jason, what have you thought about this early game here? Especially the fact that we saw the Shiv Kelvin lane come in. It didn't take over the game at all, and yet Valhalla's still ahead.
I'm honestly surprised at seeing them like so far ahead right now, considering like what's all been going on, right? They have 3 Guardians taken to the 2 of Hydra Nation, and they're still sitting on about an 8,000 lead. I'm curious, like Scout, as you pointed out, ZP, he's been taking a lot of the jungle. I wonder if he's gonna start to get involved in these fights, because he's so far ahead of like so many different people. The only one he has to really worry about is going to be Leffa. But if you catch anyone else on the team, you're going to be able to pick up some kills. And I kind of want to hope that Valhalla's going to start to group to look for some of these fights.
I just noticed his items. That is the quickest rush of Crushing Fist I have seen in my life. That is a ultra fast rush for the most damaging melees of all time. So fisticuffs for Abrams right now. Charge, hit the massive amount of HP damage, and he's just ripping this ball out of the ground. That's unreal.
Yeah, that seems unreasonable. Okay, Valhalla. Definitely looking in great shape here. And I've been enjoying also some of the calling that they've made. I think they've made some good calls as to when to disengage, when to re-engage as a team. So overall, pretty good stuff in that respect. 4 players over this right side chasing down the guys. Fishcake is, I don't think, going to survive this. There comes the health swap though, but just overwhelming numbers for Valhalla will certainly do the trick. Although it might take a second or two, but Fishcake goes down. Reinforcements has come in the form of a single IV. That is insufficient. And so, no challenge there. With that said, speaking of Abrams, now Scout's under fire on the left side. 3 against 1 here, trying to make the desperate escape. I don't know how likely this is. The charge comes through, trying to juke those players and get out of dodge, but okay, actually connects the jump pad. A brilliant escape there.
That's some infernal resilience for you there, on top of being pretty ahead of the game, even though not as ahead as you would think. It's that sort of situation, because you take a look at how Scout is built. I mean, Scout has built way more for damage than, you know, more of a hybrid build or survivability in this case. I mean, he's pretty much all in on beating you with his fists, very specifically.
Sometimes in life, the simple approach is the best one. And it's going to be interesting to see whether Hydra Nation can find their way back in. I mean, there are some concerning things. DMB's on 18k. That is a Mirage that is going to absolutely... I don't know. Hydration is not going to be able to tank Mirage whatsoever. In fact, no one is going to be able to tank Mirage when some of those items come online. So I feel like that's a fairly scary prospect. And then if you have you consider how tanky the front line is going to be between Scout on the Abrams and also Larakashi on the Shiv, in addition to the sustain from the Kelvin. We don't even care that Kelvin's a little bit further behind on farm. You've got a lot of issues here, and I mean, the only way you can really make up for it, I feel like, is obviously Leffa continuing to power through with that soul farm, and maybe Poppers being able to find some good engages as well. But it's starting to feel a little bit like things are trending pretty poorly for Hydra Nation.
I just think Hydra Nation's win conditions are pretty narrow at the moment, getting narrower by the moment. Fishcake being on the wrong side of things, picked off by League. I mean, look at League. We didn't have to use Death Slam or anything for that. It was more on the free side. A little bit chased down on the DMB here on the left. And this is one thing where, you know, the one person DMB cannot necessarily bully, of course, would be Leffa on the other side. But, I mean, this is problematic, because you think about the tools Hydra Nation has. I don't know if they can really contest this urn all that well, and it was just outside the threshold to turn it into Hydra Nation territory also. I mean, so long as League just doesn't run in the Leffa, which may be the case here. No, they're in the underground. This urn turn-in is free.
Yeah, and it's quite difficult right now as well, because DMB can really, on the defense, outnumber people. But hold that thought, we've got a big engage here from Hydra Nation, looking to try to fight on the right side again. Numbers advantage. The early initiation here is pretty decent. Trying to burst down Scout certainly takes a lot of damage, but there we go, able to finish him off. Trying to get out of there with the seismic slam, not going to work out for him. As now comes in the Lash ultimate into the Walker. Looks like Left has been able to evade the stun there. That's good work. Getting further into the backline again, just laying out the damage. Good repositioning coming on through, and with Hydra Nation able to get the reinforcements in play at the right time, still able to continue to create an offense here towards this Walker. And in fact, I don't know that it's going to be able to stay up, because the numbers here are looking pretty nice, but as that said, these players are pretty low. This will be a massive kill. That is an enormous kill. I think that single-handedly will save the Walker now.
I mean, I think they underestimated the amount of engage that Valhalla is able to bring in here, and now it's going into clock. Hydration left, but they're usually close, but not this close, and yet they're still able to punish League here against the world, off here in this tiny little Cosmic Veil area, and somehow, some way, Hydra Nation able to at least partially disengage, but surely they need to leave. They have overstayed their welcome just a bit here, Dan.
Yeah, that was a really, really good hold there. I think Lefa, I mean, we've got 4 players still on this right side. Hydra Nation are currently disengaged from the fight, but I wonder if they'll want to re-engage. It looks like they're fanning out onto the map here. But yeah, that kill to Lefa just felt so impactful because obviously the damage output for Lefa, if he's got good positioning and teammates in front of him, he's going to be able to melt you, and obviously the damage output that a Wraith can have against objectives is pretty enormous. So huge save. In fact, the Walker didn't really take any damage either, so that's very helpful for Valhalla. But at this point too, ZP, do we feel like things are going to be trending a bit better here for Hydra Nation? Because it does feel like things are evening up a little bit on the map in terms of the map control and objectives.
I mean, it's even a little bit on the map. I mean, I think overall, though, a lot of Hydra Nation on the comeback is kind of focused on, well, how ridiculous is Wraith actually? I mean, you have a 23k Mirage on the other side, just hit a power spike and getting Siphon Bullets, which I believe just got hotfixed, by the way. When they first changed it on the patch nerf, it was not working. And then they pushed another hotfix live that has now fixed it. So it is back in a workable state. But yeah, I mean, overall, I mean, Hydra Nation, they need to open up a fight basically with a swap. They need to get a combo ideally onto either Scout or DMB. There's ways that Hydra Nation can win these fights, but the conditions are tricky, Dan. Whereas for Valhalla, their conditions are far, far more straightforward.
Yeah, it really feels like they can just roll over them, and quite literally in the case of Lord and M as well. So much tankiness, so much sustain as possible. We'll see though. Not a huge deficit, 10k souls for Hydra Nation. And the distribution obviously is actually pretty even across the team, with the exception of Lefa. Indeed, I'm curious how this will go with regards to, just DMB's impact in terms of the burst damage. It's pretty enormous. And at the moment, okay, it's interesting because we've had somewhat of I suppose, a gentleman's agreement. Everyone's been rather chill on the map. No one's really pushing anything except just cleaning up the jungle. Only some jungle left now on the top half of the map. That's Valhalla's. And so at this point, you're going to be fighting for urns. You're going to be fighting for mid boss. The next urn is coming up in 20 seconds. So the natural next engagement would presumably be around the pickup / drop off of that urn.
Also, I think for Hydra Nation, you kind of want to fight here. You're still a little bit behind, but you just did a big 6k item on Lefa in Siphon Bullets. So now you've hit a power spike. You've converted some of your income. I think right now, if you're Hydra Nation, you're kind of going the Rocane Hydration, saying, hey, make an opportunity here. Urn is coming down. Get a swap. Meanwhile, for Valhalla, a lot is on Zerbzy to... I believe Zerbzy has Rescue Beam. Rescue Beam someone if they get swapped, be ready with Frozen Shelter, and okay, they just get the Urn. I think not contesting that a little bit more heavily is a bit of a mistake for Hydra Nation. We've seen since the changes that have come in that Urn control is really important. Not just contesting the Urn at turn-in, but having actual control is important, because now you look at Valhalla here, not only can they dictate the terms of engagement, make sure they go in when they say have Death Slam up, but also, I mean, you're still running the Kelvin, you still have Frozen Shelter turn-ins, you have a lot of ways of setting this up, and you look at how Hydra Nation's positioning here, Dan, I don't think they care. I think they just want a walker for Urn.
Yeah, totally. Gonna go for the old trade. We'll see how that works though, because DMB is very strong. If DMB actually has one extra player, I think they might be able to delay enough and potentially defend that walker, because DMB's damage output is so strong. And with the defensive capability of the walker too, it's actually harder to push in than you might think. And in fact, it is a complete disengage there from Hydra Nation on the left side. And with the Urn turn in for Valhalla, that is just a big value that's going to them for free, essentially.
It's even worse than that too, because think about who's getting the benefit there. It was Scout that was able to turn it in. One of the people that Valhalla is clearly going out of their way to add extra farm allocation to. So, I mean, on a macro level, that was just a pure win for Valhalla. And I think for Hydra Nation, if you're not going to go for Urn, you have to commit to... You probably have to bring more than what you did to the left-hand side, so that if you do have DMB solo defending, you just dive the walker and kill him.
again, it's another one of those big benefits of a good Mirage, and why Mirage has been good forever. Just not only is it just like how impressive the damage output can be, and when you're able to defend that Walker, it can often be 1v2 if you're a little bit ahead on farm as DMB is. You also have Traveler, so as soon as they decide to disengage, you can like go somewhere else, and that's enormously powerful. But at the same time, Valhalla are getting some of these small macro wins, but they haven't really extended their lead all that much. It's quite minimal, 2-3k souls. They haven't been able to convert into a bigger objective, either the Rejuve at this point or a Walker. But with that said, pretty deep on the left side at this point, so they have to be very cautious. Lash and the Mirage, a lot of attention there from Hydra Nation, 4 players in the vicinity, and Scout might be coming across here potentially. Okay, they're gonna get out of there as well. So just forcing some threat, and we're getting the respect from Hydra Nation to rotate a little bit towards that left side position. It looks like they're aggressively looking for an LDP.
Yeah, DMB, Mercurial, Magnum picked up, but if you get DMB dead ahead of time with the Paradox Mo combo, everything on the DMB, you take him down. You just got rid of the biggest cannon for Valhalla. Hydra Nation, a massive pickoff, could lead to more. Now they're looking for the Abrams. They're looking for the 2 fattest players on Valhalla, and they send them off to hell. HEL, as it were, and that's ridiculous. A really good pick here by Hydra Nation, Dan, that gets them back into the game and gives them 30 seconds of doing whatever they want on the map.
Yeah, it's really interesting how that came to be, because I feel like Valhalla have been in this spot for some time where they've had the advantage, but they haven't been super sure how to actually play it out in terms of the macro. Like, you know, what should we do together? So you got 2 players just out there, but hold that for a second. We have another defense here on this left side, Walker, but this is suddenly going down in favor of Hydra Nation, just because you don't have that damage output from DMB that's able to just pump these players full of that Jin's mark. And of course there are 4 of them as well, so you'd need perhaps a bit more than just that. But now you've got Hydra Nation off of the back of that. They can kind of roll through into other objectives potentially here. Still Lash is going to be down, so they could consider going for the mid boss. That is a potential objective on the table, but also the mid walker. There's options now suddenly for Hydra Nation.
Well, losing Vegas, I think, curtails some of those options here outright, and also Fishcake in some real danger right now, getting chased on down over here on the right-hand side. Goes for the swap, and no. I didn't quite tell. Was that counterspelled, or the swap? Swap either way did not get value. Swap came off and nothing happened, so we'll have to go look at a replay then. It may have been a counterspell, but...
These are big picks. Are they going for mid-boss now?
Oh, he swapped the HP. Okay, never mind. It was on the ship, so...
Yeah, they're going for it.
I didn't quite see the target. Yeah, I think when you get 2 picks like that, you absolutely can go mid-boss. So, mid-boss, super low. They go for the contest. A little bit of damage coming on in. Hydra Nation, what do you have in store right now? Swap over and in. Rocane, again, into the thick of things. You're going to get the Frozen Shelter dropped here, slow things down. DMB, though, still room to get damage here inside the Frozen Shelter. It's a pure melee around the Rejuvenate. It's Laro Kashi picking up for Valhalla, and Hydra Nation just fully sent away.
Ooh, this is going to be big value. I mean, it's been sticky for Valhalla to actually push these objectives down, but with a Rejuve in hand, they're going to be in a good spot to maybe get a couple walkers. It should be possible here. These lanes are going to get pushed way out, of course, with that Rejuve. And already mid is fairly pushed here, so they can start threatening that mid walker. And there's only 2 players up for Hydra Nation, so it really should be the case that they get that. They're running the urn behind it. They're also up against the right side walker now as well. Massive conversion possible here off that Rejuve.
Yeah, I mean, it's really unfortunate for Hydra Nation too, where they had some really well-calculated plays. I mean, they had the back-to-back pickoffs of the most valuable members on Valhalla, but they just, you have a moment where Fishcake gets picked off and things just start going awry. Quick rescue service coming on in from Zerbsy there, going, I don't like how this is. I'm gonna pop a Frozen Shelter. Keep you nice and healthy, Scout.
Oh, Poppers with the warning shot with the shotgun. Get away from the last walker. We've only got 1 left. Please allow us to have it. And Valhalla very kindly decide to show mercy and fall back. But with that said,
I was just gonna say, we got a brief moment here while the teams aren't really engaged with each other. Jason, you know, we saw Hydra Nation nearly claw it back, and yet once more it's out of reach.
Yeah, so for Valhalla, I think you're kind of seeing some inexperience with them and like confidence in their own team and like team fight capability, because we did have that like massive lull in the game where nothing really happened other than, okay, they picked up an urn and they turned in an urn and Hydra Nation tried to split push, which eventually was shut down. But that rejuve take with the 2 kills they had before that really opened up the possibility for them to start to, well, I would hope, look to take some objectives around the map. What have they accomplished from that rejuve? An urn turn in? And that's it. I expect them to push on this left lane walker. You have a better team fight comp. You should be able to start put some pressure onto Hydra Nation, start to gain some ground here. And not to, you know, be negative towards Valhalla, but this is definitely where their inexperience is coming forth. Where if Hydra Nation was in this situation, you sure as hell know they would be in the enemy base by now.
Yeah, I think Jason brings up a really good point here, Dan. The idea that if Hydra Nation had the advantage that Valhalla had at one point, the game may already be over. But on the same note, still not looking great at the moment for Hydra Nation.
No, we got an extra 20k in the bag off that rejuve and those extra objectives, and there's jungle still to be consumed on the Valhalla side of the map. So they, they've done a good job with regards to, ensuring that they steal away souls from their opponent's side and get further ahead. And so obviously the left side walker is the next big objective that's kind of up, I suppose, on the list for Valhalla. But other than that, it's going to be the next rejuve as well. So if they just manage to retain their lead, and if they just want to keep things simple, they can just think about that and then just convert off the rejuve. If that's because, for example, I agree that they have struggled once in these spots where they have had the advantage in the macro to actually find ways to abuse that and to leverage it to get further ahead. So, hey, you just keep it simple. Just play fairly conservatively. You've got the map behind you in terms of jungle, and then just pick up that, get the positioning on. Hopefully, they're timing the mid boss, and then off that they should be good to get even further, perhaps into the base.
I think what you have to ask yourself when you look at Hydra Nation at the moment is, what does a good team fight look like for them? Where right now they're getting further and further behind as their jungle gets taken, and it all kind of starts with Rocane. I feel like, can Rocane land a good swap? Is a fall through going to be there by Hydration? And can Hydra Nation cleanly get out of the fight and then set up a 6v5 at full HP? I don't think Hydra Nation, Dan, can win an even team fight if it occurs full 6v6 without some form of sneaky initiation out of Rocane. I think they are wholly dependent on this point of Rocane doing something, or Lefa maybe catching out one of the people on Valhalla that he could theoretically kill in a 1v1 or a 2v1 if someone happened to be with him. But other than that, Hydra Nation doesn't have a ton of options at the moment.
Yeah, maybe a sick affliction connection as well on the whole team or something like that. But it does, it feels like a lot to ask for because the variance is very high on that. You can never guarantee it. So yeah, I totally agree. It does feel like it would come down at this point to Valhalla having to misplay some stuff, because they do have a very, very solid comp as well behind all of this. It's very hard to kill. But Hydra Nation is looking like they're trying to set something up here, ZP.
Yeah, they're looking, and I think they have to. Jason is on the money, though. He mentions the idea of, hey, the fact that you're more of a new team, do you know how to finish out games? And right now, it's been a little bit tortured. Also, Hydration with the urn pickup, gonna drop it. Now they look for the turn here and in the moment. Hydration still looking for a combo target. Scout, meanwhile, was getting low. Goes for the seismic slam up to the air for a moment. Still getting pummeled across the board. Poppers, though, caught on out. Hydra Nation down 1 here so far. The rest of Valhalla swarming. Not the clean engage I think Hydra Nation would have liked here so far. And you're seeing some of the results. League getting burned down a little bit, but Hydra Nation, the stat check here is kind of palpable, and they're just falling one by one. They get Lord NM. Valhalla looking very healthy as this fight on the left walker continues to take form. Left walker gonna be taken on down. The rest of Valhalla still want a little bit more. Lefa just gonna immediately shift out of there, and Hydration just no way of getting away. The rush down a little bit too intense.
Yes, it's rough for Lefa because he doesn't have anyone that can stay up for long enough for him to really get the damage in from the backline. It's a huge problem. And now the base is getting decimated by Valhalla, so really well done by them to get into this position. Keeping things super simple, leveraging that advantage. And now the final patron is going to be down in the pits, and I don't know. Valhalla, they're pretty sturdy, but they might want to. They're choosing again the more conservative option, falling back here. I'm sure it's probably the right option. And mid-boss can't be too far away, so that's really how they can just finish this one off completely.
Also, I feel like the player at highlight here, we haven't talked about too much, but I think has been a very reliable part about damage in a lot of these team fights. It has certainly acted as a check onto Leffa, and for me, might be the MVP candidate for Valhalla. Actually, would be League. I think it's actually been very, very solid Lash play that's come in so far. Maybe not the flashiest in the sense of, oh, there's 2 3-man death slams, but the consistency of damage coming out by League has felt very strong, and I wouldn't be surprised if we look at end-of-game stats, and it's actually League, leading.
That's a great point, actually. And it doesn't really feel like there's a lot of great answers for a Lash, for sure. I feel like there's so many other dangers in the comp, too. I feel like you're not, like, super focused on Lash. But they also have a lot of good answers outside of Leffa. But Leffa can only shoot one person at a time. So it's like... anyway. The box is up. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say the upside for Leffa is that Leffa did pick up Capacitor. At the very least. So, Jason was bringing up items here. So there is an answer to Cube if they do catch someone out of it. But I think the problem is the overall stat difference has just been miserable so far in Valhalla right now. They're actually trying to set up a little bit of a gank.
I think Hydra Nation, they've been having, they know that Valhalla are near the mid boss, and they don't want to obviously engage the mid boss themselves. They're waiting for Valhalla to engage the mid boss first. Because really, I think the only chance is a steal for them to get back in here. And that might be in. So they're going to hear the scream, and surely Hydra Nation, if I'm right about this, are going to be just charging in now. Okay, it's a fake. So they're going to bait them in.
They want the fight. They want the fight when there's no risk of pickoffs. Valhalla, they get their fight. Is the execution going to be there? League drops on in. Plenty of damage. In for the Lash. In on the ground strike. The Frozen Shelter dropped in from Zerbzy. Valhalla looking pretty healthy. DMB, though, caught on the back end side. Leffa being a little bit surgical. And so far, Hydra Nation still with their carry. Valhalla down a key part. But League going to the backline once more, putting more pressure onto Leffa, making Leffa a little bit less safe here in lane. Still getting chased down on all sides. Arkashi able to finish off Fish Cake. Hydra Nation down 2, Valhalla down 1, as Leffa continues to try and pour in damage back on out. And I mean, contest-wise, it hasn't been too bad for Hydra Nation thus far.
Yeah, it's Valhalla trying to disengage a little bit here, but that is where you're at risk of losing players, and then the whole fight can turn. So they've got to be decisive. Everybody's getting kind of low, though, so no one really wants to continue to take the fight, but they might be forced to do so. You can see a scout unable to really be a presence in this fight. A nice charge coming on through, but surely he'll get bursted down here. Leffa is laying out the damage. It's unbelievably high DPS. Can't wait to see those stats at the end of the game for him, but still, Hydra Nation looking like they're in control of this one, just chasing these fights all together. And they're against isolated players for the most part. 3 players here trying to fight around that pillar, but it's just looking terrible at this point. Again, the damage output from Leffa is completely unbelievable, unreasonable, and it is just melting the entire team for Valhalla. And this is just so terrible because everything's gone wrong here, ZP. You think, like, what could go wrong for Valhalla? Okay, well, they fight the mid boss, and then the opponents steal it, and they baited them in to take the fight, and it's even worse outcome.
Dan, kill Wraith! For the love of God! Hydra Nation got allowed to disengage and re-engage like 4 times in that fight, and all the while you just see Leffa's HP going back up. And the only person that put pressure on Leffa for a decent part of it was League, but the rest of the Hydra Nation, sure, they were providing peel, but that was ridiculous. That probably shouldn't have happened with the advantage that Valhalla had, and it started out the bait, but their execution after the bait, they didn't go out of their way to make sure that, maybe when you go for the Frozen Shelter play, you lock down Leffa, who, by the way, just got another huge power spike. He was pumping damage before, now he just got Magnum on top of it. I mean, look, the other thing, too, is looking back to the draft and thinking about what we saw in EU, giving up Wraith in general, it just may be a really bad idea in Deadlock at the moment.
It really seems like I felt like the bait was actually a really smart idea because it creates, because they had enough of a lead, but they should just win their team fight, and like it should be pretty straightforward, especially with their comp 2. But they lost, but like they mismanaged it. And it got out of hand, and so this is like actually the worst possible outcome. And I feel like if they lose from this point, they're going to feel like they may have thrown the game away because they were ahead for so very long, and that was the only way back in. for Hydra
Also,
Nation.
take a look at the replay a little bit. Scout kind of bugged himself with Seismic Slam at one point there. It like got stuck in the wall for part of the fight. So that is a newer bug that may have turned things. I mean, maybe that was the difference in Leffa getting heavy pressure on him at the moment. So there's a world where that could have been the gift that Hydra Nation needed. But either way, 259k, 250k, Hydra Nation back in the game. And if you're hearing boss music, it's because Leffa has just hit peak Wraith at the moment.
Yeah, and it's definitely not over just yet. Obviously, Leffa's threat level is insane. Absolute just end boss type of threat level. And Valhalla just need the right engagements. If they can lock him down, take him out, you know, the shelter, like you mentioned, there are options that exist. But in the base right now, doing the damage to the objectives is certainly creating a lot of problems here for Valhalla, as we see Hydra Nation just trying to play the, well, rather, we're on Leffa's POV. He's trying to ensure that his positioning is consistently perfect so that he's not at risk and maximize his damage output. That's a huge series of kills. What an engagement there. That's exactly what they were looking for.
Yeah, and I mean, Unstoppable saving Leffa for a moment, but not against this many people. Valhalla just crunching the front line. And, you know, I feel like Hydra Nation messed up a little bit there because we're watching Leffa's point of view. And here's the thing. He's sitting here hitting Guardians while the rest of his team is fighting. And I get it, you want objectives, but I feel like being split from your team, Valhalla correctly recognizes, yo, the raid boss is off to the right. How about we all go middle? They slam through middle, Dan, and suddenly it's Valhalla back on top. And, you know, a good opportunity here. You know, Jason, you're watching that as well as I. It felt like Hydra Nation kind of misallocated there.
I wanted to hear the comms out of Hydra Nation because they were like poising for a fight inside the base, right? They were setting up, they had Leffa in position, and then Leffa splits off towards one direction while the rest of his team stays in another area, and then they ended up getting caught out. Like we saw, was it Poppers being the first one to fall as a pocket, which I wouldn't expect to be the kill target priority coming through, but I'm not sure how they caught him, but they caught him nonetheless, and they were able to snowball the fight off the back of that. At least for Valhalla, after the bug that happened for Scout, it's a sigh of relief for them, considering they get the full-on wipe and they pretty much reset things back to how they were before, minus the 20k soul differential. But you can see, I mean, Leffa, was that unstoppable or was that a counterspell? I didn't actually see if he had a counterspell that he actually prevented the death slam from coming through.
He used unstoppable. Yeah, he grabbed unstoppable. So trying to go after Leffa right now is a pain, but they just saved it for last. They went for the rest of Leffa's team because Leffa willingly split himself off. And Valhalla instantly pounced on the opportunity. So I look at that and it just feels like kind of a misplay by Hydra Nation, but a really good recognition from Valhalla of their win conditions. And at this point, it's anyone's game. I just think when it comes down to fights here, Dan, if you're Valhalla, I think you look at Zermsy, they have to set up a scenario where Leffa gets put in the frozen shelter and you burst him down there.
Well, I think it's going to come down to this mid boss again. It's going to be up in 30 seconds, and you know both teams know that that you can't afford at this point to risk one player getting picked off. It's not worth it. The game's basically over at that point, or should in theory be. So it's interesting too because both teams have even souls, which I think the first time we've seen this with the mid boss coming up. And with that said, Valhalla definitely a lot further away. So I'm curious whether Hydra Nation might decide to engage it when it spawns first. 3 players on the left side here now for Valhalla. They're quite outnumbered around that urn. There's fourth player's TP'd across. So just the positioning, the team positioning here is very interesting. Okay, I mean, this urn, are they going to run the urn?
I feel like if you're Valhalla, here, I think if you don't go for mid boss or something because they're trying to run urn, I really think you actually accept that they get urn and try and engineer something where you dive onto the back line and isolate Leffa. If you can do that, because if you kill Leffa, there's really no kill threat for the rest of the Hydration. Like, yeah, you might get hit by a big affliction by Poppers, but it's not really much without Leffa's damage backing it up.
Yeah.
However, Hydra Nation is playing this exceptionally slowly here so far.
Yeah, there's no... It is interesting that there's no real need to drop off the urn per se. because the mid boss is coming up. You don't want to risk wiping or losing players before it. That would be the worst possible thing you could do. So just now the mid boss is going to get triggered by Valhalla. Are they going to just come off of it this time? They're doing a lot of damage to it. Okay, they're going to bait it again. Will this be more successful this time?
It may be. I mean, airdrop already out here from Vegas. Gonna try and get some value off of it with the silence. And now the fight is underway. How's this one going to turn down? Death Slam opportunity, grabs 3, a massive Death Slam by League, up and over, 2 kills immediately right after. They lose Lord M in exchange, but a much better engage here so far from Valhalla. Still the Frozen Shelter in turn. They can still use it to lock down the Wraith. Now, back the other way, still a really healthy Lash we're looking at here. And now Valhalla, setting the terms of battle. Zerbsy, though, really low. Has to drop the Frozen Shelter to stay alive. Still might be going down right after. League trying to make the most of it. Up and over. Pressure on the Leffa. Not deterred. Poppers down at the same time. Able to go up and over as Fishcake gets taken down. Valhalla able to turn this fight to their advantage. And do they get the real prize at the end? Clean up Leffa. And now they're going to go for first stage patron here, Dan. You'd think.
Yeah,
maybe back to mid-boss.
I love your call out on League's impact in these fights. League, I think, single-handedly created those windows and opportunities to take out multiple players. Initially off the Death Slam, then the follow-ups, and they are indeed just going for this one. I mean, you're not going to blame them. They are so close. Yeah, 5 players are down, just hydration on the mole. He can't do anything to stop this.
Yeah, for some saying first stage, no, they already got first stage down. So at this point, game, Hydra Nation, they're going to fall here and now. Valhalla finish it out. And I gotta say, the Lash play there to maintain pressure on the Leffa from League, really phenomenal.
Yeah, and just like cutting off line of sight so that, okay, you're getting in on your abilities, creating disruption and kill potential, but at the same time minimizing your ability to actually die. So there's that constant threat that you're just around the corner and you can just get another ground strike in. So yeah, really awesome stuff there from League. That's brilliant. I mean, that was the answer. That was the answer, because Leffa needs people in front of him to be able to do the damage. And I think Leffa was constantly in a spot where there was too much pressure on him because of moves like that.
Yeah, and time to bring back in Jason to talk about the game. And Jason, that went back and forth. Hydra Nation nearly was able to run back over and grab it as I turn on the light. That's why we haven't gone back to cameras, because it would have went to me in the dark, and our production is just too darn classy for that. But Jason, that was back and forth.
Poor Dan. Sorry, because that happened to Dan earlier. Yeah, very back and forth. The funny thing was, before you guys fully took it into the game, you asked me like, what do I think about these lanes? And I was saying, I'm not a big fan of seeing an Abrams Lash lane. But funny enough, those were the 2 players who actually were like the pivotal points to allow Valhalla to win, in my opinion. Like you pointed out, League is potentially being an MVP. You saw that Death Slam at the end, instantly taking out 2 players as he goes for an unstoppable Death Slam, so you can get a connection onto multiple people. Like League and Scout, like those 2 alone, not alone, did a massive amount of work in that game, and it was kind of ridiculous to see. And I'm already looking at the damage numbers as well. We thought DMB would be pretty damn high at his 61,000 souls, but it was actually League the highest damage dealer for the side of Valhalla on the Lash at 42k, which is
that's what ZP
damn
said
ridiculous.
Happened.
Yeah, no, I called that out mid-game. I was like, look, he's been doing a lot in the middle of these fights, and it's like, we'll see at the end of the game if it's passing the eye test. If you look at the stats here, Jason, it did in fact pass the eye test. I mean, just looked good the entire game.
Yeah, it does feel like Lash is pretty back right now. Deathy must be pleased.
I have to be nice to him because he recorded a video with me with the Deadlock game show. So yes, I'm sure he's very happy as he's watching currently over on his own stream right now. I do wonder though, if this wasn't a best of 1, I still feel like Hydra Nation probably would have won this series. I think you could see the pressure to both teams of realizing it's a best of 1. We cannot make a mistake. A little bug happens for Scout, which is unfortunate, but considering like how scared or restrained Valhalla were, I think restraints may be a better word, to like go for the finish or go for like a push, especially when they had such a big advantage, I think is like a showing of like, okay, we're not necessarily 100% confident we can take these fights and win. Though I do love the one thing they did, well, 2 things they did, the push off of the bait on mid boss. Oh my God. Like the first time, I know it didn't work out too well for them. Eventually they lost out in the fight, but that was so sick to see. That had so much potential, and you could tell Hydra Nation had absolutely no idea that fight was coming their way.
Well, one thing that people may not have had any ideas coming their way was our MVP. No, they probably knew after we were gassing them up. It's going to be League as our Intel player of the match. and well-deserved here. I think there's a period of time we're wondering, who do we give MVP to if Valhalla wins and League just went into a class of his own? But also, side MVP for me, because I wasn't aware of it. A little bit difficult to do on higher ping, but it's come to my attention that Larokashi is one of the top players over there in South America from Brazil, which is why you got a lot of Brazil support up in the chat right now. So big shout out to anyone watching from that region of the world. And hey, your audience has been rewarded as Larokashi does get to move forward to play against melee creeps.
Damn.
That's sick.
That's
sick.
Zethie's got me in chat. Watch my mouth. No, that's so sick to see, because we've even been talking about, like, we would love to do a DFN in South America, because we know like how passionate the fans are. We know like how good South American fans can be, or sorry, players can be in multiple esports titles. I would love to be able to have that happen. But nice to see like our first little dip in the pool or dip in the ocean of what South American talent has to show us.
Yeah, there's guaranteed to be a very deep amount of talent there. It's the same, I think, in a lot of games. In CS, there's this joke that like right now, because it's not like a super top like Brazilian team, there are some good ones, but a lot of like the super insane players are spread out across a bunch of different teams. But there are a lot of them, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case here as well in Deadlock. So that would be super exciting. So and it's also, to be honest, exciting that we saw this victory over Hydra Nation. Again, Hydra Nation obviously have gone through a little bit, a couple of changes themselves, but it's always going to be an achievement to defeat them. And so, really massive props to Valhalla and just how they played as a team to do this. I think there was definitely some spots where I think we could have seen maybe some more from them in terms of like just converting more heavily on their advantage. But to be honest, it's nitpicking because they beat Hydra Nation.
Look, I mean, you look at where this is at, and I think NA in particular is going to be pretty volatile while this patch settles. I think it'll take a while till teams really hit their groove, but, man, oh man, we now getting a chance to look at the stats in the game, and, you kind of see the amount that League was doing damage-wise, but also, Unsung Hero, more of a support Kelvin was being played here, where you think about the changes that got made to the game. You don't necessarily have to pick up any gun items on Kelvin to be efficient now with the slot changes like you kind of felt you had to do before. So you get an incredibly supportive Kelvin here when you look at the overall healing output that comes on in. And, we'll say this much too. This is a comp where they got enough value early in the draft that they were even able to overcome the Curse of Wraith, who usually has been the death knell in this patch.
Yeah, that's like the toughest part watching this game too, because of like the lack of frontline, with how quickly their frontline would just be walked over. Like Leffa just couldn't get the damage out that he wanted. Like you saw in some of the earlier fights, like when he's left alone, he just destroys the enemy line. But when he loses like Rokane, Vegas, or like Poppers early on, it's like, what are you going to do? You're 3v6. Doesn't matter how much damage you have. You cannot stand up and take out 6 players like that who are coming your way, having the support out of Xerxes and Lord NM. I mean, there was so much CC as well. Like there was only so much Leffa could do in those situations. And that's just the way it's going to work out for him, unfortunately.
That's a good point. And I think also what's interesting is that, Mo falls. Oh, that sucks.
Thing is,
they still
fair,
won.
right?
It's fine. They still won. It's fine.
That part sucked, right? But honestly, they could have just like ditched him because they didn't do that, right? He actually tried to get away. He got Vortex Web back in by Ivy. He got swapped in by Rokane, and then they rescue beamed him to pull him out. But they committed. They stuck around for that fight to try to help him out. And they should have just been like, okay, I'm sorry, bro, you're dead. And that actually still probably would have been more one side than for Valhalla.
I was just gonna say though, real quick. The pick of Mo and Krill feels a lot worse here, because part of the reason, like you said, that Leffa couldn't really get activated is because there's not really much tankiness going on there, and Mo doesn't generally tend to get necessarily like super tanky in a lot of these like pro level matches that we see, because Mo often is not getting the farm, and we saw that be the case here with hydration and the lockdown. There's so many answers to the lockdown as well that I feel like the late game there was just not. Like that slot could have been better used by something else in terms of like supporting Leffa into a late game team fight scenario. So I just like wanted to put a flag on that, because we haven't seen Mo and Krill in the new patch, and I was just wondering what the value might be compared to how it was.
Well, speaking of value, there's no better value than getting something for free. And if you want some of the highest tech Intel hardware on the market, You go to www.rivalsfightnight.com and enter for free to win an Intel Core Ultra 285K CPU. Don't worry, even if Jason were to enter and win it, we'd still give it to you and tell you you got Jason's CPU. So go on over there and enter if you haven't. What do you got to lose? It is free.
Hey man, nothing's free in life. Don't know who's been telling you that.
Just wanna ZP's trying to lead you astray, sending you over to rivalsfightnight.com. You actually want to head to deadlockfightnight.com because that's where the real giveaway is being done. The secret giveaway is on Rivals Fight Night. Don't go check that one out because I want to win that processor.
I'm gonna be honest. I've done a lot of giveaways on the other thing here. That is my bad. Is that? But also, you think it's on either. But yes, please deadlockfightnight.com, which kind of ruins half the hype of what I just did. But in any case, look, I'm gonna just hide my shame for the next 5 minutes, and we're gonna go to break because the break just happens to be timed right now. So when we come back, the money match is underway. It is gonna be Valhalla taking on Melee Creeps. But deadlockfightnight.com. Thank you.